Well, good morning and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to PLMA. This is a load management dialogue or webinar, and here you will discover practitioner perspectives on flexible load management, demand response, distributed energy resources, and managed charging. Today's webinar features a discussion with 2025 PLMA Award of Excellence winners, Arizona Public Service and EnergyHub, on their initiative, which is called VPP and Load Shaping, Enhancing Reliability Through Customer Collaboration. It will be moderated by PLMA Awards co-chair Michael Olson of City of Tallahassee Utilities. And now let's get on with the presentation and let's meet our speakers and our presenters and get the webinar underway. Michael, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Judy, and welcome everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speakers, as Judy mentioned, from Arizona Public Service, or APS, and EnergyHub, and their award-winning initiative, Virtual Power Plant and Load Shaping, Enhancing Reliability Through Customer Collaboration. They are Izzy Lawrence, Program Development and Implementation Manager for APS, Blanca Moreno, Program and Portfolio Management Supervisor for APS, and Emily Buzik, Client Success Manager at EnergyHub that supports all of APS's EnergyHub programs. Before we get started, though, just a quick side note about the PLMA Awards of Excellence program and a few of the changes we made this past year. So in the past, there were certain categories to apply under, and nominations were typically scored against criteria within each category. This year, though, we made the process a bit more open-ended. Rather than have categories, we allowed members to define what excellence means to them, and more specifically within their programs. We received nearly 20 nominations, from which 9 finalists were selected, and those were ranked by a jury of PLMA peers. The Arizona VPP and Load Shaping program was one of 4 winners recognized with an Award of Excellence at PLMA Spring Conference in Kansas City earlier this May. So as we proceed with today's conversations, please type your questions into the chat and we'll do our best to answer all of them. And now it's my pleasure to hand the floor over to Izzy to get us started. Izzy?
Thank you, Michael. As you said, I'm Izzy Lawrence. I'm the Manager of Program Development and Implementation. And to start, some background on APS. We are Arizona's largest and longest serving utility. We're an investor-owned utility that serves in 11 of the 15 counties in Arizona with over 1.4 million customers. And with that, we serve about half of Phoenix, which Salt River Project also serves a significant number of customers in Phoenix. So our peak demand right now is about 8,500 megawatts and growing. We actually just set a new peak demand this summer with our most recent bout of heat, and we'll see what the rest of the summer brings. And Blanca and I are both members of the Customer to Grid Solutions team, which at APS is our team that serves as the bridge between what our customers want and the grid needs. So we work to deliver customer programs that create customer value, online tools, help customers interact with the grid, and really adopt those technologies that customers are interested in as the market continues to evolve and customers continue to see more growth. And so that's a little bit about us. And so pivoting to talk about our virtual power plant, and we can go ahead to the next slide. I just mentioned that our peak load is growing. We set a new peak this summer, and we're continuing to see a lot of rapid expansion in Phoenix, both within the commercial and industrial sector with the presence of data centers and new customers in that segment, but also growth in our residential sector. We're setting more meters than we ever have in the past. And so that means we're seeing load growth and strain on our bulk electric system trying to keep up. Like much of the West, we're capacity constrained and also looking to build more generation. I think we're estimating a peak load of about 13,000 megawatt hours in the foreseeable future. And it took us over 100 years to get where we are today. And so we really see our customer-sited resources being a really key part of this solution. So we have adopted an aggressive goal to continue expanding our virtual power plant and keep partnering with our customers in order to grow that resource, continue adding capacity, and continue adding value to it for both our participating and non-participating customers. So we're looking to about 5x by 2033. And with that, I'll hand it over to Blanca to talk a little bit more about the programs that make up our VPP, and specifically our Cool Rewards program.
Thanks, Izzy. Next slide, please. Thank you. So a little bit about our VPP portfolio, which is actually nearing 200 megawatts. As Izzy said, Cool Rewards is our first one on here. It's our largest program that we have right now. This program, we partner with smart thermostat manufacturers to remotely adjust thermostat settings for these customers, specifically during high demand periods. We can call up to 20 events per season. Our season runs June 1st through September 30th, and this forecasts to deliver 160 megawatts. The next one that we have on here is Peak Solutions, which is our commercial and industrial demand response program. This program targets customers with flexible loads. It offers day ahead and day of event options. We can call up to 18 events with this program, and we forecast about 30 megawatts there. The next one on this slide is our residential battery pilot. This residential battery pilot is a small scale pilot, more focused on load shifting, using customer battery storage. This is a year-round program, up to 100 events per year. With this program, customers received an upfront incentive participation credit in exchange for a 3-year commitment, which is actually approaching here soon. I believe next year or early 2027, we'll wrap that 3-year commitment up. The next program on here is Critical Peak Pricing. Critical Peak Pricing is a demand response rate rider. Customers on this rate rider agree to use less energy during high energy usage or high energy events. In return, customers receive discounted rates during our non-event hours during the summer months. It is also seasonal, running June through September, and we are able to call up to 18 events with that program. Energy Savings Days is a behavioral demand response program, voluntary residential program that encourages customers to reduce usage during peak periods through behavioral messaging. And then we have a couple of new programs that are coming. Actually, Smart Charge program has already launched. This program helps EV owners, optimize home charging while earning rewards. It includes 2 different participation tracks. The first one is charging assistance rewards. Customers tell us when they want their vehicles charged, and we manage the schedule to prioritize off-peak hours. The second one is data rewards. In data rewards, customers are really just helping us, sharing data with us to help us understand usage patterns. In both of these tracks, customers receive the same reward in exchange for that, which is a $25 one-time bill credit for their enrollment and a $5 monthly bill credit for their participation. And then up and coming is our APS storage rewards program. And you may also have heard this as BYOD, bring your own device. This pilot will reward customers for sharing stored energy from their home battery systems during high demand periods. It is going to be a seasonal program, which is going to run May 1st through October 31st. We will be able to call up to 60 events per season. And this is a little bit different from our others in the fact that this will be a pay-for-performance compensation. So customers will receive $110 per average kilowatt delivered during those events. If we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into our Cool Rewards program. Like I said earlier, this is our largest virtual power plant program in our portfolio. We are nearing or probably have reached about 100,000 thermostats enrolled in this program. This program rewards residential and small to medium business customers for allowing adjustments to their smart thermostats during our peak demand periods. This program runs June 1st through September 30th, helping reduce that grid strain. Customers receive, so residential customers will receive a $50 one-time enrollment credit and a $35 annual participation credit at the end of the season, while business customers are eligible for $60 upfront enrollment credit and then a $40 participation credit at the end of the season. And those credits are per thermostat. Co-rewards events are typically triggered by high demand or grid constraints. It's capable of shedding up to 160 megawatts of load during those peak events. And the program is really a partnership with our customers, which is why customer satisfaction is it's a central focus for us here. For this program, overall customer satisfaction has remained consistently high. Between 70 and 80% of participants have reported either being somewhat satisfied or very satisfied over the life of that program. And then based on those surveys that we have done, we've also learned that customer satisfaction was attributed to the customer rewards that customers are getting for participation, pre-cooling strategies, which help preserve that comfort for customers a little bit longer, and then clear communication of when we are calling those events. We do have a regulatory requirement. We have to notify our customers in advance of events, either via email or we just recently introduced text messaging this season. So we do have to notify customers in advance of those events, which helps transparency with customers. And I believe it helps with that satisfied or the overall consistently high satisfied goals there for customer satisfaction. And then, of course, there's customer opt-out flexibility. So on this slide here on the right, you can see that we have our co-rewards promise. The co-rewards promise is a trust-building message to our customers, ensuring that they feel empowered, informed, and comfortable when contributing to a clean and more reliable energy grid. We can go on to the next slide, please. So, as many of you are aware, Arizona's summer weather is extremely harsh. Last year, several substations in the metro area were impacted when a monsoon storm rolled through the valley and damaged some equipment lines. Utilizing back then a newly developed dashboard tool that provided insights to customer connected technologies, and you can see a little snippet of that here on the slide on the right-hand side. You can see the blue dots on the map represent the premises of customers who are enrolled in the co-rewards program. So the information can definitely be pulled at a substation level, but utilizing this tool, we were able to identify approximately 2,800 customers that were in that impacted area and were participating in the program, which allowed us to call our first ever locational event. By utilizing the tool along with other mitigating actions from T&D, we were able to successfully avoid rolling outages for customers that may have otherwise been needed to manage the load in that area while we maintain the equipment. While the event was successful and the process of isolating the areas, while the event was successful, the process of isolating those areas were a manual, time-consuming effort. So this summer, we've actually partnered with EnergyHub to develop grouping strategies that help us enable quicker customer isolation in the case of future event needs. And with that said, I'll go ahead and hand it over to our partner over at EnergyHub, Emily.
Thanks, Blanca. Like Blanca said, I'm Emily. I'm the Client Success Manager at EnergyHub. I wanted to start off with doing a bit of an overview of EnergyHub and an intro to us and where we're working. This slide is just to kind of highlight where we are across the country. We have over 80 utility clients with over 1.7 million DERs under management, with a very large population of that being at the APS program. Next slide. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about our dynamic load shaping capabilities and the tests that we went through in the APS territory last summer, but wanted to level set with what we're seeing the baseline and actual load look like for a standard DR event. So this is what we're seeing if you were to just call a standard event without the dynamic load shaping capability. As you can see, there is the pre-cooling before the event, the actual load shed during the event, and then a bit of a snapback after the event as well. So next slide. So what is dynamic load shaping? It is EnergyHub's capabilities to be able to use our algorithm to calculate what and when to dispatch. So the utility chooses a desired load shape and any constraints for the event. So there's pre-positioning, timing, and limits. How much load shed do they want? What's the pattern that they want? Any customer constraints that we need to take into account, for example, no more than 2 hours of load reduction. All of those limitations the utility would decide. And then our DERMS platform with the dynamic load shaping capabilities builds and executes a dispatch plan. So we divide the distributed energy resources into a lot of different groups. And then we use machine learning to build models for each group. And from there, an optimization engine will combine many small events to deliver a combined event that meets the goals that the utility decided in that and the constraints that they want to kind of take into account. So next slide. So this is a graph that shows how this worked at APS last summer when we did this in practice. So we looked to optimize around times of solar generation and customer TOU periods to actually increase the load shed during the peak times when there was the high solar production. Then there were additional phases after that where the algorithm successfully optimized 8,000 thermostats across a 6-hour time period, which yielded a higher megawatt peak reduction during the peak time, the target peak of 4 to 7, while still aligning to the maximum 3-hour and 3-degree offset per device. So those were the constraints that APS had put into place when we were determining how this event would run. And then additionally, in order to align with customer TOU rates, there was an added parameter of no pre-cooling and no snapback between 4 and 6 p.m. as well. So as you can see, pre-cooling occurred across device groups between 12 to 2 p.m. in order to capture that extra solar generation that I mentioned earlier. Then between the hours of 2 and 4, there was limited load shed in order to account for customer TOU periods starting at 4. And then in that final phase, between 4 and 7, we can see the ramp up of load shed to align with the TOU period and ultimately the highest load shed. And this is just a really great demonstration of the dynamic capabilities of this optimization strategy to meet the specific needs of APS and their customers, while still being able to increase the flexibility delivered from the VPP and the Cool Rewards program. And I'm gonna pass it back to Izzy to go over kind of what's coming next.
Thanks, Emily. So last year was a great year of firsts for APS and EnergyHub as we partnered on our Cool Rewards program with both that locational event as well as the dynamic load shaping. And what I've found in my time at APS about firsts is once you prove you can do something cool, everyone wants to see more of it. So for this summer and beyond, we're really looking to see how we can take our learnings from last year and continue to evolve it and refine it in order to get more value out of our virtual power plant. So as Blanca mentioned, we did a lot of working with EnergyHub to figure out how we can make our locational response more real-time and dynamic so that we can respond to T&D needs should they occur through the summer. We're also looking forward to continuing to test the dynamic load shaping with larger groups of customers to see what it looks like across our entire customer base to add to the data from our test event last year. And we're continuing to launch new programs with EnergyHub. So Blanca mentioned our recently relaunched Smart Charge program, where we'll take our learnings from our thermostat programs and continue to apply that to our EV drivers in the area to see how we can both reduce load impacts at a system level and also apply that at the distribution level where we're starting to see high concentrations of EVs. We're also very excited about our new APS storage rewards program. This is a program that was actually ordered out of a rate case that was decided last year. And we worked very hard throughout last summer to put together the program criteria in accordance with that order. And it was approved by the Commission in March of 2025. So we're working to launch that and hopefully get some learnings from that program this summer so that we can continue to build our VPP capacities and capabilities with more resource types, because you can see the little Tetris blocks on the right side of the screen. We really believe the more technologies and the more tool and the more flexibility we have in our toolbox, the more we'll be able to deliver for our grid operators and all of our customers relative to a resource that can truly respond to a signal we set versus, as Emily showed, the standard kind of response that we get from some of these technologies in the past. And so we really, as we look forward, want to continue to partner with EnergyHub so that we can turn our customer-sited resources into something reliable that our grid operators believe in and keep driving that value to help us meet our upcoming challenges that we have across the system. So with that, I believe it's time for questions, Michael.
Yes, thank you, Izzy, and everyone else. Just quick reminder to attendees, as you have questions, feel free to enter them in the chat. We did receive a handful of questions in advance, so I'll pull from a few of those. Probably the first of which, maybe I'll direct to Ms. Blanca. How are you marketing these programs, and what enrollment channels have you found to be most effective?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we use a multi-channel marketing approach to promote most of our programs. Specifically, when we look at Cool Rewards, we're looking at email, direct mail, digital ads, local newspapers, and we actually have a segment on living, Sonoran Living on our local news where we actually talk about that too and educate customers as well. So it's really, we also have, I don't want to forget about a few things, the program microsite and then the APS marketplace where customers can purchase a thermostat at little to no cost to them. And those devices are already pre-enrolled. So we can also do marketing through there. I would say that our marketplace is probably one where we have a little customer visits on, where we see most effectiveness. But I would say across all streams, where we're seeing our programs continue to scale.
Great, thanks. Let's pull from a couple questions in the chat. What's the timing of telemetry you receive during events? Is it in real time or some lag? Is that something Izzy or Emily? Can you answer?
I can hop in and answer this one. We get the data from the devices themselves. So we typically see, it depends on the device partner, but 24 to 48 hour turnaround time from the time of the event that we receive the data from the devices.
Great, thanks, Emily. There's a question that came in. Do you have a benchmark, say, cost per enrollment? How much do you spend on average to acquire that enrollment? So this kind of speaks to some of the cost benefit. Is that something maybe Izzy you could address?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the programs, we do look at the cost benefit analysis of the program at the overall level. So in Arizona, we're required to use we use a societal cost test, but because Arizona's regulatory environment is a little unique, so is our societal cost test. So it truly looks more like a total resource cost test when you compare it to other jurisdictions where we're not considering externalities. So while we do try to monitor, how much we're spending on marketing in a given year and what it costs us to acquire our customers, we don't have a specific target. I would say we obviously want it as low as possible, but in order to do that, what we're really focusing on is also our customer retention and turnover rate, because we don't want to have to re-recruit the same customer multiple times, because that's what really we found drives up our costs. So trying to make sure that if a customer updates their Wi-Fi, we're communicating with them to get that device offline. Or if a customer is moving within our service territory, how can we best engage them so that when they leave their house and possibly leave that thermostat behind, we can market to the customer who took over that thermostat and try to get them in the program, but also keep the customers in the program, because that's where we see some of the greatest value, is keeping our already happy and engaged customers.
Great, thanks, Izzy. Next question, maybe to Emily. So APS has a number of programs under the virtual power plant, the Cool Rewards, peak solutions, critical peak pricing, and all. Is that a conceptual bundling, or is it all integrated under the EnergyHub platform, a single management platform?
So we don't run all of the VPP programs that Blanca shared on that that PowerPoint slide. We do run the Cool Rewards, the battery, and the EV programs, and they are all housed under the EnergyHub platform. So it's kind of a single pane of glass for the utility to be able to see what devices are enrolled in their different programs.
Okay, great. And Emily, while I have you, is APS the only entity using EnergyHub's dynamic load shaping algorithm, or are you working with other utilities as well?
We have worked with other utilities. We have been testing out the functionality last summer and this summer as well. And we have been testing out different load shapes at different utilities based on the individual use cases that the utilities have for the functionalities.
Great. Thanks, Emily.
Yeah.
Let's see. Another question just jumped up. Is there a path to getting ancillary grid services from the virtual power plants, or will that require substantially greater penetration of these distributed energy resources?
I can go ahead and give this one a shot, Michael, and then if Emily has anything she wants to add, of course, welcome her thoughts. I do think long-term, we're going to continue to see the ability to add more ancillary grid services to our VPP capability. I think last summer's progress, not just for APS, but also others in the industry on calling locational events, was a great first step in that direction. I do think we'll need to see greater penetration of DERs and also more types of DERs incorporated into our portfolio with that real-time interaction. So what we can do with a thermostat is going to be very different from what we can do with a battery, or even if we start, exploring connecting real-time to smart inverters on solar systems. All of those innovations are going to bring more opportunities for us. I also think the more we can understand and partner with our distribution engineers and our distribution ops center folks to understand their challenges, it'll allow us to innovate into this space, to understand, do we truly need higher penetration, or is it targeting a different time of day that's going to bring some of those values? So I don't think we're at a point where we've unlocked it and we're going to start bringing these ancillary grid services in the next year. But it's one of the things that makes me so excited about working in this space and looking towards the long-term trajectory of what the VPP might be able to deliver.
I think somewhat tangential to that is the work you all are doing in that locational deployment of the virtual power plant. So it sounded like it wasn't without some challenges last year when you did the locational event, but that it was helpful to avoid, say, rolling brownouts. Do you anticipate having to use it or activate it this year, your system, or is it weather dependent? Or
I would say so,
Blanca?
Michael. I mean, we are prepared in case we have another situation such as the one we had last year where we had a storm roll through, or other stuff. It doesn't
Sure.
take a storm only. It could be other things that happen that damage our equipment or take down some equipment, and we need to get together and call an event for this. We are prepared. I think last year was a lesson learned for us, and although we kind of stumbled our way through it a little bit, it was a good event and it turned out well. We learned some things from it. We were able to work with EnergyHub to do some grouping there. So now moving forward, I can say that if there is a need for it, I feel really good about being able to call that event with little to no time.
And with, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I think Blanca really highlighted, our approach, but there's also at a lot of the conferences, the conversation about locational value as like a non-wires alternative for a pervasive distribution challenge. And really what we did last summer and what we set up and worked internally to do this summer is to address more real-time operational challenges. Okay. So when that monsoon rolls through and, takes out an extended section of 69 kV line and we lose our redundancy, or, a piece of equipment overheats and needs to be replaced and it creates that really localized, unexpected challenge, is what we've been spending a lot of time on. There are areas of our grid that have some of those pervasive loading challenges, but that's where people's questions of, do you have a high enough penetration on that specific area comes into play. And unfortunately, our most sought after area, we don't have that penetration today, and we're working on marketing there.
So you are focusing some of your recruitment on those more maybe congested or problematic circuits, substations that you are suggesting?
Yeah, I would say we're exploring that today.
Okay, sure. Great. Take a step back. For Blanca, looking ahead, do you anticipate there to be any shifts in customer behavior or preferences that could impact participation in the demand response programs in the coming years?
Great question, Michael. I do. I think as a utility, we anticipate shifts in customer behavior and preferences all the time, right? Which is a little bit about why we focus so much on customer surveys and leaning into the customers as partners. I think some of the stuff that we have heard in the past is, real-time notifications via text messaging, which we listened to and implemented this year. But I also hear, more seamless enrollment process, rebate process, time's valuable to us all, and our customers want to be able to get in there, get enrolled in that program with little effort on their part. So absolutely thinking ahead, I think there's always opportunities to improve how we do our process and how our programs work, and making it more customer centric and making sure that we're focusing on that customer experience.
Thanks, Blanca. And perhaps you or Izzy could help me on this one. I'm very intrigued or interested in the solar soaking portion of, say, the dynamic load shaping piece. Basically, as you're forecasting excess solar, pre-cooling homes, how is your incentive set up to support that or incentivize customers to pre-cool, or is it part of, I guess, a holistic incentive or a single incentive for participation?
From a Cool Rewards perspective, it's a single incentive for participation. So
Okay.
customers get their enrollment credit as well as their annual participation credit. And that solar sponging we do both for the solar sponging, which is great in Arizona. In addition to just having a massive amount of utility scale solar, we have over
Sure.
180,000 residential customers with solar systems on their home as well. But it also really helps with the customer comfort going into the event, giving
Okay.
a broader cushion before their homes start to get really warm. But one of the great things about this program is we've also worked really hard to align it with our time of use rates as well, which I think are really important for encouraging that midday energy consumption as well. So our time of use rate is currently 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. is our on-peak window. And we do a lot of customer education, both in our Cool Rewards, videos and information, but also outside of the Cool Rewards program to customers about pre-cooling their home. And we encourage customers with a smart thermostat to set a schedule where they're doing daily pre-cooling to help them get bill savings and achieve customer comfort while being able to increase what their thermostat is set to during their on-peak period. And we actually see a fairly large reduction in our peak every day from 4 to 7, and are hearing more and more success stories from our customers who are doing daily pre-cooling to optimize around their time of use rate.
Nice, sounds good and good to hear. Question just came in, perhaps for Miss Emily. Is there a plan to tie EnergyHub's virtual power plant into an automated distribution management system?
No, there's not.
No.
Yes,
Okay.
there's not.
Okay. So on the topic of, say, grid operations, grid reliability, and Izzy, maybe you've already touched on this. How do you balance that grid reliability with customer satisfaction? So you mentioned you just talked a little bit about the pre-cooling piece and how that works well together. Do you have other insights on balancing grid reliability with customer satisfaction, especially maybe in the Cool Rewards program?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll start by saying balancing, the grid needs with the customer needs isn't without its challenges.
Sure.
Because the grid doesn't always need electricity when it's convenient for customers. So we do get some feedback from customers around, we don't understand why you're calling these events during dinner time. Like, my house is getting hot, I'm trying to use my oven. And we've incorporated additional messaging into our communications around, this program is called when the grid needs it most. That's often in the evenings and on the hottest days of the year. But I would say we also do a lot of internal education with our stakeholders as well, to try to better align with our resource operations and distribution operations around what are the core pillars of this program. So we don't do any pre-cool during most customers' time of use periods. We work really hard to also never end an event during the time of use window. So if we were to end an event at 6 p.m., for example, customers would see that snapback occur during their time of use window. So we do have a core set of operational principles that we've worked with our operators on of, this is our guardrails and our comfort area relative to customer bill impacts and comfort. And then it's a constant evolution, right? Trying to understand our market prices and grid constraints from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. really, like, is that the challenge we're trying to address? Because we know pushing later into the evening is going to have customer impacts. And if the answer is yes, at the end of the day, we do, see this as a resource and want to use it to solve our grid challenges. But we just need to make sure we're having those conversations and making the decision, because you also don't want to impact customer comfort to a point where customers get dissatisfied and unenrolled, because that's counterproductive to the program as a whole, because you'll lose capacity.
Sure. And I think that's where like battery energy storage becomes attractive, because it's less impactful. And sounds like your residential battery pilot has been fairly successful. I think maybe you still have another year to go in the pilot. With the storage rewards, I don't recall if it was mentioned. Do you have a target number of megawatts that you're looking to enroll under the storage rewards pilot that you'll be launching?
So we do not have a target number of megawatts that we're looking to enroll. But with the framework that it was ordered under by our corporation commission, so it's a 5-year duration pilot with a cap of up to 5,000 customers. So we'd love to see over the course of the 5 years enrolling up to that 5,000 customer cap. But I would say we're still learning a lot from the residential battery pilot today. And we, right now have estimates of how much we might see per device once the program's up and running. But really we're focusing on the customer target and then learning to see how much per device the batteries deliver in practice to give us a better idea of what that megawatt target might be.
That makes sense. You touched on the commission influence there. Perhaps you could share, how does Arizona's regulatory environment influence the evolution of these types of programs, to include Cool Rewards and the other programs under the VPP portfolio?
Yeah, I think it's impossible to separate the evolution of these programs from the regulatory environment, not just in Arizona, but across the country. So for APS, all of our virtual power plant programs today are part of our demand side management implementation plan, which means that, in order to make significant, changes to program design or launch new programs or really advance in this space, we need to have plans heard by the commission. We are in kind of a challenging window. We haven't had a DSM plan heard by the commission since 2022. So we're really grateful that our storage rewards program kind of got approved and incorporated a plan out of cycle. But understanding and building flexibility and the ability to learn and evolve into your filings, I think, is a big learning that we've taken away, so that as we are managing times of, possible lag in plans being heard, or even just with the rapidity that new technologies are coming to the market today, having frameworks that allow you to innovate quickly are really going to be critical, I think, for all utilities to try to balance the regulatory approval process with the speed at which the market is evolving in this space, so that we can continue to learn and introduce new technologies in a way that makes sense in the, kind of pilot to program, or even like micro pilot to full pilot to program type evolution.
Are you finding in Arizona one of the regulatory drivers is emission reductions, these kind of clean energy concerns? And if so, does APS EnergyHub track emission reductions under the virtual power plant and load shaping program?
Emissions reduction isn't a driver in Arizona for really any of the demand side management programs we have, whether they're VPP or energy efficiency type programs, to the extent that in most societal cost tests, you do include externalities like environmental benefits. And in Arizona, those are
Sure.
specifically
Okay.
excluded from our test. But Emily, if you guys track for other jurisdictions, feel free to chime in.
No, we do not.
Okay. Thanks. Did have a question come up through the chat, and thank you everyone who's participating and sending in questions through the chat. This is open to anyone on the panel. What do you see as the low-hanging fruit in furthering demand response initiatives going forward? And again, open to any of our speakers.
Izzy, do you want to take this one?
Okay.
I'm happy to. So I think we're getting to a point where we are actually starting to have captured a lot of the low-hanging fruit and the, easiest thermostat customers to acquire. And, we're moving into the battery space, which I probably would have said was the next, easiest segment to acquire as we're seeing more and more battery attachment rate in our service territory. But some of the things I'm excited for looking forward is trying to assess how we can capture harder to reach segments within the thermostat space. So Arizona has a lot of rentals, both like single family build to rent rentals, as well as large amounts of multifamily properties that have tons of thermostats. But with the way, renters are moving in and moving out, and also the challenges of the landlord tenant relationship and who owns the device, who owns the utility bill, it just creates a different set of challenges for us.
Sure.
So I would say that I wouldn't call it a low-hanging fruit because all of those issues I just highlighted are going to be challenges. But I think it's our next big area of opportunity is really figuring out how we can design and evolve the program to work for that really large customer segment in our service territory.
Great. Thanks, Izzy. Emily, any thoughts on that from an EnergyHub?
Yeah, I would definitely second everything that Izzy said. I think that thermostat programs are a great place for utilities to start, as most customers do have thermostats in their house, and more are smart thermostats that are able to be a part of these programs. With the BYOT, Bring Your Own Thermostat program design, it also opens up the door to a lot more customers than if it was only a new purchase program. So yeah, I would just second everything Izzy said and encourage utilities to try out BYOT thermostat programs.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, I think we've captured all of the questions through our chat and those questions that were submitted in advance. So I think we're doing good on time as well. Maybe just throw out to the panelists in the Q&A any additional insights or thoughts that may have come to mind to share for the good of the order. And hearing none, one question did pop in. So Miss Judy, I'm gonna grab that one and then we'll look to wrap up. So for the thermostat program, have you done studies in Arizona or elsewhere to compare load shed and comfort impact from doing pre-cooling with a gap versus without?
Yeah, so I can tell you from our experience, there's pros and cons of both, right? So you will get a higher first hour reduction if you do pre-cool with no gap, because you're pre-cooling right up until you raise your thermostat set point, and just then your band of temperature range is much wider before thermostats start to kick back on. The other side of that, however, is we typically call 3-hour events. I would say our most typical time window is, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. So we have 1 hour of pre-cool gap. And we actually see 40 megawatts of load shed on average during that pre-cool gap time period. So it does have what I think is a real added benefit of it takes that 3-hour event, and from a load reduction standpoint, it actually makes it look like a 4-hour event. And so while there is the trade-off on the side of, you know, the less first hour reduction, with the first hour in this case being 5 p.m. To 6 p.m., you do get a, you know, longer time period of load shed. And as I said previously, it's very important for us not to adversely impact our customers' bills by pre-cooling while they're on peak.
Okay, great. I appreciate that, Izzy. Are you, a couple more questions just rolled in. We have a few minutes left. Are you all measuring actual megawatt reduction using your AMI, your meter data, or through another method?
Yeah, so we're doing this through the data that we receive from the devices themselves.
And then for APS, in addition to using, sorry,
go ahead,
Michael.
Izzy.
I'll say for APS, in addition to using the telemetry that we get from the devices via EnergyHub, we do a verification with AMI meter data as well, which takes longer, of course, to do that kind of measurement and evaluation.
Sure, because you're dealing with a lot of data at that point, of course. Another question came in. I'm not sure I quite understand, so I'm going to read it out, and maybe someone on the panel can help me shape it. How do you think about competing programs, authorizations, and such when a homeowner is being asked to enroll in mutually exclusive programs by companies that are competing for the homeowner's authorization? Did that resonate, Izzy? Go ahead.
I can take a stab at what I think this means. So our programs are all kind of bring your own device with APS as, you know, the ultimate program owner and operator. And a lot of other jurisdictions I know, like Texas or California, they're also doing more capacity purchase type VPP programs where the utility, or even like, I mean, I don't know a lot about ERCOT, so, but, you know, companies actually marketing to customers saying like, hey, get a Tesla battery and be part of the Tesla VPP or the Enphase VPP or whatever that looks like, and they're selling directly to customers. So if you have the benefit of being like, you know, a vertically integrated utility, I think you have, you know, more opportunities in this space to think about, you know, what that looks like, and also just in how you structure your programs in general, because I am the type of person who, no one judge me, hasn't shopped for car insurance in probably 5 or 6 years, just because I find it overwhelming. So when I think about a customer program where I'm trying to decide, is it better for me to go with manufacturer A versus B versus C, and what are the differences? I personally see that as a potential customer experience challenge to virtual power plants.
Absolutely. Sure. Thanks, Izzy. We're going to do one more question, and then I'll give the floor back to Judy. And this one, Izzy, may be for you, just kind of building on the conversation we had around pre-cooling and time of use. Is the time of use parameters or incentives aligned with solar soaking? In other words, is it worthwhile or cheap enough for customers to do the pre-cooling?
That's a great question, and I'm going to answer this in 2 ways. So in the summer, we only have, you know, well, we have our time of use and time of use with demand rate. I'm personally on our time of use with demand rate, and I certainly think the financial incentive is there for me to do pre-cooling because, you know, my per kW demand charge on peak I think is $18 or $19. So for
Okay.
every, you know, and it's a 1 hour KW. So for every single, you know, kWh I can reduce in a given hour, I'm saving, you know, almost $20. On our time of use rate that doesn't have the demand component, it's about a 3-to-1 ratio of on-peak to off-peak energy charging. So I still think that incentive is there as well. But
Okay.
where we really see the need for solar sponging the most is actually in our shoulder month periods. And so from October through May,
Sure.
we actually have a super off-peak rate from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in those high solar hours. That's very cost competitive. So drives customers who can do things like, we don't have as much AC load during that time, but if you're working from
Sure.
home and you can do your laundry or run your dishwasher, or personally, my pool pump is set to run during that middle of the day period, there's definitely the ability for customers to save quite a bit by shifting into those solar hours and acting as a sponge.
Certainly, if it makes sense for them. Yeah, and all. Perfect. Thanks. Thank you all, Izzy, Blanca, and Emily. As we're coming to the end of our time, I'd like to again thank each of you for sharing your knowledge and insights with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And with that, Miss Judy, I'll hand the floor back to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. And again, to echo what Michael just said, a huge thank you to Arizona Public Service and to EnergyHub, and specifically to Izzy and to Blanca and to Emily for today's discussion. It was very, very interesting. You raised a lot of great comments and ideas and concepts for everyone to take into consideration. We appreciate you being here. And so to wrap up, I just want to let everybody know we had a question from the audience about where can I listen to this again. PLMA does have a YouTube channel. It is at PLMA FLM, that stands for Flex Load Management. So we encourage you to look on the YouTube channel. It usually takes us a day or so to get the recording edited and then up onto the channel. And we also post it on our podcast, and you can find the podcast. It's called PLMA Load Management Dialogues from wherever you get your podcasts. The other thing I want to remind everybody of is PLMA's EV Symposium is coming up this summer. It will be on August the 26th and the 27th, and it will be held in Denver, Colorado. So if you are interested in managed charging and how that impacts the grid, we would love to see you there. We have a number of folks coming from the OEM community, as well as a number of utilities, and it's always a very rich and interesting conversation. So join us if you can. And one other thing I wanted to quickly flag is PLMA has built out our news page so that we can highlight specifically job opportunities. We hear a lot from folks that they want to be able to post job opportunities. So if you're a PLMA member, please do consider posting a job opportunity. And of course, if you're a PLMA stakeholder or friend from anywhere in the country, we encourage you to look at this job posting list. So there's always things bubbling up, and use that as a resource. And so to wrap up the rest of our conversation today, let me just let you know that you've been listening to a load management dialogue from PLMA. And to learn more about upcoming dialogues, we invite you to visit our calendar, which is at flexload.org, or alternatively, go to your favorite podcast platform. And for now, that concludes this edition, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll be back again soon. Bye for now.